Look, I'm a very busy guy. I run a sales training company. We produce countless hours of content each week. I run 15 to 20 training calls each week and single-handedly at this point sell 7 figures worth of enterprise level training packages as well. But I also take my dog on long walks every day. I practice drums each morning for an hour, and my family life is full and fulfilling. It is true you don't have enough time to do it all in sales, but if you prioritize your time for maximum productivity, like what I do, you can still be a highly successful B2B salesperson whilst living your best life, or whatever the heck that means for you. And here is how. Hi, my name is Will and I make selling simple. Okay, so today we're going to look at my top 8 time-saving management tips. We're going to look at 1, reverse engineering, then 2, time blocking, 3, we're going to look at why you need a paper to-do list, 4, phone pruning, 5, the Pomodoro Technique, which sounds weird, but I'll explain what that is in a second, 6, Parkinson's Law, 7, continuous structure, and 8, perhaps the most powerful of all of these productivity time management tips is the power of no. So lots to cover, little time, so let's jump right into it. Now, time management tip number 1 is reverse engineering. This is so important because we waste so much time on tasks that don't do a damn thing to help you towards your goals, whether that's a business goal, a sales goal, or a goal in your personal life as well. And this is all a problem from having the wrong perspective. Instead of looking forwards to decide what needs to be done to reach your destination, I want you to start looking backwards. Imagine what you want. Typically, it's going to be a financial goal, and if you're watching videos like this. So from there, start moving backwards in time from that financial goal. What do you want to do each year to build up to that goal? What do you need to do each month to achieve that yearly goal? What do you need to do each day to achieve that? So let's say you want to earn an extra $50,000 this year, which if you're in B2B sales should be an absolutely appropriate new target to go after. Heck, it should be way more than that if you are willing and committed to improving your sales skills. But let's start here for the sake of the video. Well, 50K in commissions might mean an extra, 30 closed deals. Perhaps for every 30 closed deals, you need to do 24 discovery calls that are, some are going to work out, some aren't. And we'll continue this made up series of numbers just to prove the point here. But perhaps for every closed deal, you need to do 24 discovery calls, and most of them won't work out, which means that over the course of the year, to get that number of deals done, you need to do 750 calls, or around 190 per quarter, or if we narrow it down even further, 63 per month, or when we get down to the basics, 15 calls per week, which is actually really manageable. And so with those numbers in mind, you reverse engineer what you want from your life, from your business, from your sales role, which in the sales role is probably going to be financial compensation for your effort, right? And then you reverse engineer it and you've got exactly the work that you need to do each day to reach that goal. Next up is what we call time blocking. And this is one of my favorites. This is something as a procrastinator I have to do to get my work done. And I've talked about it on this channel tons of times before. Essentially, you need to start scheduling your most important tasks. Don't just have a mental to-do list that you're just crossing off throughout the day. Instead, put all the tasks you need to complete into your calendar. I use Google Calendar for this. But here's the most important part. You have to stick to the times that are in your calendar. Don't spend a second more or a second less on what's in your schedule. We'll cover the reason why you need to be strict about this in a second. But if you waver just even a little bit from those scheduled times, the task will start to bleed over from one task to the next and the entire system falls apart. So schedule it. Say that you want to do prospecting for an hour each morning. Schedule it. If your boss calls, sorry, I'm prospecting. If your husband or wife calls, sorry, I'm prospecting. If your dog's staring at you because they want to go for a walk, tough. You've got to get that done. It's blocked in the diary. It has to be done for that period of time. Next up, we've got your paper to-do list. Now, keeping a paper list with you at all times makes it so easy to just add things and cross things off throughout the day, no matter where you are, what you're doing, whether you're selling or whatever it is you're doing, right? And this is how I go about doing things, right? So coincidentally, I've got a pad of paper here. I always have one with me wherever I am, whether I'm recording videos or I'm in the office in the room next door, doing sales calls, making deals happen. I always have a pad of paper with me. Everything that I need to do, whether it's a new task, whether it's a reminder, whether it's something I've forgotten about, which shouldn't be the case in this system, I write it down. Then at the end of the day, if there's anything left on the list, I add it then to a digital to-do list to keep everything organized. And I do this with the Things 3 app on iOS. But the paper side of things is important for me personally, because there's something viscerally satisfying about crossing off lists on a piece of paper one by one. There's almost a layer of, you see the task, you get a release of serotonin, and then when you complete it, it's not completing the task that gives me the dopamine rush, it's getting a pen and scribbling it out on the piece of paper that gets me the dopamine. The feedback loop is complete and I feel good about doing it, completing the task, which then leads me to want to move on to the next one. If I try this on an app, if I try this on my computer, if I try and do this, well, this would be a terrible idea, but if I tried to run and keep a track of my to-do list mentally, I wouldn't get that benefit and I wouldn't get through half as much work as what I do right now. Next up, we have phone pruning. And this one is going to hurt, but trust me, it's definitely worth it. You need to get rid of distractions on your phone. It's as simple as that, right? Get rid of Facebook, get rid of WhatsApp, get rid of LinkedIn even. If you're spending non-work time on it, nix it, get rid of it, just delete the app, no faffing around. So that's step one of pruning your phone. Now, there are some features built into iOS. I use iPhones, right? There might be equivalent for Android, I'm not sure. But some features make it easier to concentrate. For example, there is the focus feature on iOS that will eliminate some notifications from certain apps and won't let people call you at this time and all this kind of faffing around. I don't use any of that. I just delete the app themselves, so there's no temptation whatsoever, and this is a powerful way to keep your eye on the ball at work at all times. The alternative is just leave your phone in the car when you go into the office, or if you're working from home, like most salespeople seem to be doing right now in the market and the times that we're living in, then just put it in another room. Unless you're doing sales calls from your mobile phone, get it out of the way. It's no good for you. The mental processing it takes to go from one task where you're doing work to checking notification, to going back to that mental task is absolutely vast. It doesn't seem like a big deal, but you're going to find yourself with so much more energy towards the end of the day when you get rid of all this micro task switching. And you do that by just deleting the apps on your phone so you don't get notifications. I don't even have email on my phone. That's how serious I take this point. But if you're not willing to do that, at least give it a trial for 2-3 days, a week minimum. Get your phone out of the room. Don't have it with you, and you're going to find yourself getting into the state of flow. You're going to find yourself doing more work than you thought was possible, all because you're not getting distracted 24/7. Which brings us on to technique number 5, which is called, weirdly, the Pomodoro Technique. Now, this technique is surprisingly effective for how simple it really is. Next time you've got a task that you want to be doing, say you want to do some cold calling, or you're really putting off updating your CRM, just commit to doing the task for 25 minutes and then schedule a 5-minute break. It's as simple as that. Even if the task is going to take you 3 hours to do, just schedule that first 25 minutes. And you'll find if you structure your entire day with this technique, something pretty amazing starts to happen. You stop wanting to stop. Because I've found that the hardest thing for me as a natural born procrastinator is simply getting started on a task. Once that part's over, my momentum just keeps me going. If I've got to send 25 emails today to my account-based approach to closing enterprise deals of our sales training program over at Salesman Simple Academy, which you can find by clicking the link below this button. While I've said it, I might as well plug it. If I've got to send 25 emails, sending the first email is the hardest. Getting over that hump of, again, task switching to move on to this new task, to sit down and do it. That's the hardest bit. Once I've sent 7 emails, I'm very likely to send the rest of them. But with this technique of just setting a 25-minute timer and just getting started, you're making the biggest barrier to getting your work done super easy to overcome, because after all, anyone can do a business task for 25 minutes. Your brain can comprehend that, your brain can understand it, your brain can get started. Next up, we've got Parkinson's Law. And I like this one a lot because it's kind of counterintuitive. So Parkinson's Law basically states that the time it takes to finish a task depends on how much time you allot to completing it. So if you're giving yourself 3 hours to perform some menial task that should only take really 1 hour, then it's going to take 3 hours to do it. If you make up this big imaginary story that your prospecting is going to take you 4 hours a day to get done, it's going to take 4 hours a day. Versus if you say, right, I've got to close up shop early this evening, I've got to go out for a meal, I've got to go see friends, I've got to do this, a hobby, whatever it is, and I've got to get this done in an hour. Chances are you're going to get the same amount of work done in that 1 hour period. So the moral of the story here is that you should experiment with harsher self-imposed deadlines. And sure, this makes total sense, right? What you produce might not be quite as polished if you had unlimited time budget to accomplish it. But most of the time in sales, done is always better than unfinished. Technique number 7 is continuous structure. So let me ask you this. How often do you find yourself struggling to be productive after you've had a really lazy, relaxed, slobbish weekend? Most people's Monday mornings are pretty tough to get rocking and rolling, tough to get going. Now, the problem here is that, well, you've only got one brain. And when your habits and your thoughts are one way at the office and completely the opposite at home, making the switch between the two can be difficult for your brain to process. So instead of keeping the two separate, your work life and your home life, why not use some of the same techniques in both? If you find, for example, that time blocking works wonders in the office, maybe try doing it on a date night with your partner each week. Just time block it into the calendar. It's a meeting with you and your missus or your husband, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it is. And because it's in the calendar, you've got to fight to protect it. You've got to go on the date. You've got to make it happen. Just like you would with a massive client meeting that's been scheduled for 3 weeks ahead of time. Or you're prospecting that should be time blocked in your calendar every single day. Just implementing this one thing, you might be surprised how well all of these other techniques can work in your personal life as well. And just a final point on this, I like to get up at 6 o'clock every single morning. Even if I've had a late night, I get up at 6 a.m. The time I go to bed can be somewhat flexible because if I get up at 6 a.m. and I'm tired, then I'll go to bed early. If I get up at 6 a.m. and I'm not tired, I might stay up a little bit later. But on the weekends, I get up at 6 o'clock because I walk the dog every day as well, right? And I find this really powerful to have consistency, not from day to day, from week to week, from month to month, but even year to year in my productivity. Which leads us to the final point here, number 8. And this might be the most useful time management technique of all of them. And this is something that I had to learn the hard way. You've got to learn to say no. Stop being so nice. Stop agreeing to every single demand, every unreasonable meeting time, every covering of someone else's blunder. It's sucking the energy right out of you. Even worse, it's letting your colleagues, your clients, and even your sales manager know that, well, because you always say yes, it's probably fine to just walk all over you. Think about it like this. You only have one life. Time is our only non-renewable resource. And so if you want to make your goal omelette, you're going to have to break a few eggs. You need to get comfortable with saying no more often. And saying no with prospects, with your colleagues, with your boss, with your partner, with your kids, with your bloody dog. It gives everybody clear boundaries. It stops clients walking all over you. And you've just got to say it 2 or 3 times a day. And you're going to literally at that point, if you've not done this before, free up hours and hours and hours of time every single week. This is time that you can spend on more important things like, I don't know, prospecting or hobbies, things that you're actually working towards, the things that make life worthwhile. Learn to say no. And you're going to find that the first few times you say it, if it's your boss asking you to do a task or it's a good customer, whatever it is, if you really don't want to do the job, just say no. And the first few times you're going to be nervous about it. You're going to be stressing. Oh, what are they going to say? What are they going to think? And 9 times out of 10, the individual goes, okay, fine, we'll find someone else to do it. And they'll find some other sucker who isn't focused on their productivity, who isn't focused on their time management, who will take on the job, and they've just, given you back a few hours of your own life. So say no. There's no way that you're going to regret it. So how much work you can get done each day comes down to your time management. And if you want to get better at using your time more wisely, you've got to use these 8 techniques of reverse engineering, time blocking, having a paper to-do list, phone pruning. This is so important, especially if I'm 35, right? If you're a young'un and you've grown up with a smartphone, you've got to prune your phone if you want to have success in life. The Pomodoro Technique, Parkinson's Law, continuous structure, and of course, the power of saying no. With these techniques, you're going to be actually pretty surprised, I imagine, how much more productive as a seller, as a business person, and just in your life you're going to be. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed this video. Why not click the video that's on the screen right now and continue making selling simple.